Hello, my name is Chris and I'm a U-Haul hitch professional. If you're planning on towing a trailer with your Jaguar F-Pace, then you're going to need trailer wiring. It is required by the law. Now let's take a look at how we complete this install. You will need the following tools or supplies to complete this installation. This installation will take place in the cargo area, so let's begin with the cargo door up, remove our floor coverings, and remove the shade if present. Rotate the clip on the shade to remove it from the tailgate. You can also remove the spare tire, loosen the tire lock, and remove the spare tire from the vehicle. We can also remove the styrofoam compartment with the jack and tools. It is simply Velcroed down. We're now ready to remove our rear scuff panel. First, we need to loosen two hidden 10mm fasteners. You do not need to fully remove them, just loosen them off the plastic scuff panel. You can now pry up on the scuff panel using a trim panel tool and gently pulling upward. We're now ready to begin removing interior trim pieces. Let's begin by removing this tow hook with a 6mm Allen key. Now remove this trim clip using a screwdriver and a trim panel tool. You can now remove this cargo hook by lifting up on this flap with a flathead screwdriver. We're going to remove this trim, but first we need to remove a hidden T20 Torx bit fastener back here. Use your bit, a 1/4 inch socket, and a long extension. If you have trouble retrieving the fastener, use a magnet to ensure you do not lose this fastener when we remove the trim. Use your trim panel tool to pry up on your pressure points. Be sure to unplug this light electrical connection before fully removing the trim. There is a small tab that you have to depress. Use a small screwdriver if needed. You can now gently pull the trim out of this corner. We can now remove this trim clip using our trim panel tool. Pull back the trim to expose the tail light bolt that we need to remove. This bolt is a spring-loaded plastic wing nut. Simply loosen it with your fingers until you can take it fully out. We can now remove our tail light, but we do have to remove our electrical connection. Depress the tab here to remove the connection. You can now repeat these steps for the passenger side trim. On the passenger side, you may also find a 12-volt adapter that you need to unplug in addition to the cargo light. These final trim clips do not need to be removed to gain access. We can see our tail light bolt without removing them. We can now access a grommet that is hidden up here behind the tail light. We're gonna remove this grommet. You now need to remove the grommet on the passenger side as well. You can use your cutting tool of choice to pierce a hole through the center of the grommet. I'm gonna go ahead and use a 3/16 drill bit and some needle nose pliers to keep my fingers clear. Go ahead and do this for both your grommets. We can now begin testing our taillight connections for functionalities. With this Jaguar F-Pace, we have determined there are 2 left turn signals, so we need to be sure that we tap in to the one that is also left turn stop. So here we have identified we have a left turn stop as well a running lights. Mark your wires or note their colors and functionalities and move on to the passenger side.
On the passenger side, we have 2 right turns, one that is right turn stop.
You can now remove the negative terminal of your battery so we can begin making wire connections. We're now going to run an extra length of fishing wire through the grommet so we can bring the signal wires out. Go ahead and trim off about a 1.5 foot section of your power wire. Since your battery is in the bumper, you will not need the full length. Now pass the fish wire rearward and inward, and it can then be accessed from inside. Now tape the yellow left turn and brown running light wires to your fishing device to pull them out to the tail light. In order to make sure I have enough length in my green wire to hide the converter box and make the connections, I'm gonna tape my 2 signal wires where I plan to connect them and move forward with running and hiding wires. So this way the converter box will not suck the wires back into the vehicle. Due to the fuse panel on the passenger side, fish wiring this side is going to be a little more tricky. You're gonna wanna pass the wire backwards on this side, and you're aiming for the tail light bolt hole, so when you can see your wire in there, it can be accessed from inside. Let me show you. You can now access the wire from this square access area. If you have to reach in to grab it, please be very careful. These body panel edges are super sharp. If you need to, use some needle nose pliers to fish around in there and find that wire. Now tape your green wire to the fish wire and pull it through to the tail light. Again, be careful not to get the green wire hung up on any sharp body edges. Now pass your green wire through the back of the rubber grommet so that we can reseat it into place before we make the connection. You can now remove any electrical tape and expose some of our signal wire. Because we're in a tail light cavity that clearly is exposed to the elements and getting dirty, we're gonna go ahead and use heat shrink butt connectors to make this universal wire harness work. Now trim the insulation on your identified signal wire and your green wire, exposing enough copper to twist them together to apply the heat shrink butt connector. Now ensure that you have a snug fit to the butt connector and melt the plastic with the heat source of your choice. Now re-secure the wire bundle with some more electrical tape. We can now reconnect our passenger side tail light. We can now reinsert the tail light bolt, being mindful that our green wire now shares a space. We want to make sure when we twist this bolt in, we do not get that green wire bound up in it in any way. Again, it's spring loaded, so we're going to tighten until it feels nice and snug, but not over tighten it. We can now pull the slack out of our green wire and affix it to all these electrical wires using zip ties. We're now ready to connect the remaining wires. Because we do not have a separated stop signal, we will ground the red and white together, but the grounding post I would prefer to use is a little bit farther off. So I'm gonna go ahead and add an extra length of wire. As well, we're going to make the connection to our power wire so we can run this all down to the battery cavity under the spare tire. Save yourself some length of white wire to reconnect your ring terminal. Expose enough area to twist the copper together. Because we're inside a vehicle, you can use a 2-port lever arm butt connector. Trim off enough length to ensure you can reach this grounding screw underneath the spare tire. Because we're reusing our power wire for the ground and the red wire, I'm gonna mark it with some electrical tape, so after we tape up and hide these wires, I know which one is my ground. We can now choose a location to hide the converter box using the double-sided sticky tape. Be sure to unfurl your 4-flat connector and hide it behind the trim, stretching into the spare tire recess. The converter box can be affixed to the body panel up and behind this plastic bracket. We can now connect the yellow wire to the identified left turn stop wire. Now connect your brown wire to the identified running lights or headlights signal. Now return the driver's side taillight. We can now route our ground wire to this grounding nut, pass the excess length of black wire that we connected to it behind both the wire harnesses, and then trim off any excess so we can connect the white ring terminal. Feel free to use electrical tape to keep the lever arms in place. Now remove this nut using a 10mm socket. Place the ring terminal and reaffix the nut. We are now ready to prepare our fuse holder. I always cut a long end and a short end, the long end connecting to the battery and the short end butt connecting back to the black power wire. So let's go ahead and put our provided ring terminal on the longer side. We're now ready to connect the fuse holder to the battery. Use a 10mm socket to remove this fastener. And we're gonna pass the fuse holder from over here and use this as an area to zip tie it in place. Now route your power wire to the fuse holder, ensuring you have enough length to zip tie it to the electrical harness under the spare tire. Now use provided zip ties to secure all your excess wiring. You can now reconnect the negative terminal of your battery. Now insert the provided fuse and test your 4-flat connection. Tail lights, left turn, right turn, brake lights, and hazards. We're now ready to choose what to do with our 4-flat connector. Our customer would prefer to leave them in the cargo area for the rare chance they use them for their accessories, but if you'd prefer to mount them on a bracket, you can order one from the link in the description below, or you can pick one up at your nearest local U-Haul Hitch Center. We can now reinstall the trim and all the fasteners. To reinstall the trim, we're gonna start up at the forwardmost end of it here. We need to slide it up under the leather trim and get this clip to line up, and we can push it all the way in. Also, don't forget to make this electrical connection. Now line up all the tabs and push the trim into place. Now reinstall the hidden Torx fastener. Now repeat for the opposite side. We are now ready to reinstall the rear scuff panel. Do remember to line this plastic tab up with the post where we loosened the 10mm nut but left them in place. And then fix your weather stripping. Now tighten the 10mm nuts snugly, but do not over tighten. You can now reinstall your spare tire. Make sure your lower locking clamp is loose, tighten the bar fully, and then tighten the lower clamp to secure the tire in place. We're now going to conveniently tuck our wires away for future use using the dust cover as a removable tie. Place on the retention strap side first, coil the wires up, and secure with your dust cover. That concludes trailer wiring for your Jaguar F-Pace. Please remember to practice safe trailering, and we can't wait to see you out there. If you have any questions about the products seen in this video, or if you'd like to schedule an installation with your local U-Haul Hitch professional, please visit us online at uhaulhitches.com. You can also download the U-Haul app using the link in the description for even more ways to manage your hitch and towing needs.